third speaker of this session is from Singapore, Natalie Pan. Natalie is from the School of Communication and Information, and today Natalie is going to share with us a topic entitled Making Connections, Fieldworks and Visual Arts at the studio at Westview. I don't know whether I pronounce it correctly or not. Halls of residence at Nanyang Technological University. So, over to you, Natalie.
Okay, that works. Hi everyone. Let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Natalie in NTU, and I work in the School of Communication and Information as an assistant professor. So I just at this point want to acknowledge my colleagues in the audience, also from NTU. They have worked with me for the past 2 years in the development of the course I'm going to talk about today. But at the same time, I also want to talk about our journey for the past 2 years. So as you can see, we are very new in our residential education journey. And in this presentation, I would like to tell you a bit about that journey, our principles, the principles underlying the residential education framework we have come to interpret at Crescent and Pioneer Hall. So by the way, CRESPIAN is short for Crescent and Pioneer Halls. So if you've been to Singapore, you know that Singaporeans love acronyms and abbreviations. So we try our best to shortcut everything, especially words. So towards the end, I'd like to also talk about the challenges that we have faced in our residential education journey, and perhaps exchange some ideas about how to resolve them. So before I start, I just want to also say a bit about the context. In NTU, we have a total of 18 halls. So 16 of these halls are what we call the traditional halls that's characterized mostly by food and fun. But Crescent and Pioneer Halls are the 17th and the 18th hall that came under the new residential education framework. So these a couple of years ago, NTU also articulated 5 desired attributes of NTU graduates. So we call these the 5 C's, another acronym. That's communication, civic-mindedness, creativity, character, and competence. So let me talk about 2 issues that really became the drivers of what we do at the residential hall. So a lot of these graduate attributes cannot really be developed entirely within formal degrees or entirely within halls. So, for instance, academic programs are very good in developing competence in their particular disciplines, but things like communication, character, civic-mindedness, these are attributes that may not always be looked after within the halls or within formal degrees. So there was also this connection that we saw in terms of the learning experiences between living in the hall and the students studying in their formal degrees. So this led to the development of what we call some of the principles for our interpretation of residential education. That it is about intellectual growth. There is an academic component, but there has to be this learning, this growth intellectually has to have a purpose towards serving the community, becoming good citizens. And in the process, in that journey, these students can also grow personally in various aspects. So, I kind of like this, another acronym, 3H we call it. It is about connecting the head, which is kind of represented by our competence and knowledge, with their hearts, the civic-mindedness, the character, and their hands, the creativity, the communication, to create an impact. So because everyone shows pictures of their residential colleges, so we're going to show ours. But this is actually an artist blueprint. It does look quite similar to this. So this is actually present at Pioneer Hall. It is a cluster of 2 halls. And in NTU, on average, 45% of the students have a place on campus. Although all freshmen, when they come into NTU, they are guaranteed a place in the hall. So, yeah, more propaganda pictures, also used for advertising and collaterals. So my colleagues and I came into the hall in July 2014, and from day 0 that we started, we were given a mission to develop a plan and concept for how residential education would look like at present and Pioneer Hall. So this is kind of our what has come forth over 2 years. We developed the idea of learning spaces where projects, workshops, and credit-bearing courses, which are meant to be interdisciplinary, are designed and introduced to the hall. So as you can see, we have kind of 4 learning spaces. So we looked at for instance the physical sciences and engineering. We have a garage. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But yeah, then we have a studio which allows students to dabble and experiment. Okay. In visual, tactile, and literary arts, we have a kitchen which is very exciting. It's taught by my colleague there, and which is all about the science of good eating. And then we have a gift bag which really works with all these 3 different spaces towards giving back to the community. So the studio is actually a mixed art space, and as I mentioned, it supports experimental projects and workshops. So some of these examples include leathercraft, playcraft, woodworking, photography, creating documentaries, and Photoshop skills. So I would like to actually next talk about a collaboration between the studio and an academic program, which we call the University Scholars Program. And this is where I come to my other hat I wear at the university, being part of this program, which aims to nurture and develop top students into, as you can see, creative and reflective global citizens. And to support this vision, a course that was designed as a fieldwork and documentation course was introduced to present and Pioneer Halls, which actually hosts most of the USP students. And we had 2 clear objectives. The first is about equipping students with the necessary knowledge and skills to design, plan, and execute a research project in the social sciences. And secondly, to develop competence, creativity, and communication skills in the development of a media story using mixed media. And that's the part that the studio comes in. So in terms of features of the course, the students are organized in small groups and they work in their small teams throughout the course. So this relates to, sorry, the slide is taking a bit of time to look. This relates to the objective of the research. So as you can see, they work in their groups, not just in terms of working through their classes in the hall, but they also have a field trip that comes towards the end of the course, where they apply their skills in a field trip. In fact, that picture was taken in Hong Kong. That on the top when the students actually went to Hong Kong to do their field trip. So they are also actively engaged in making 2-way dialogical connections between the concepts and knowledge that they learn in class and concrete experiences. So for instance, they learn concepts of social science methods, they get to practice on each other in class, and they actually get to apply it in their field trips. And we make use of a blog, so it's a bit like the e-portfolio, where we get students to write reflections, and I share the same sentiments that we cannot just tell them to reflect. We had to come up with a specific task and instructions for them to kind of direct their reflection. And the third feature, is it's about practicing communication and using materials in the articulation and presentation of visual arts. So using photographs, videos, clay, paints, and film, the students had to develop a mini deliverable in their respective teams. So towards the end of the course, each team, in fact, is given 3 exhibition panels and a projector, depending on the nature of their deliverable. So these are just some shots taken during the exhibition, but the video on the left actually is an example of a documentary developed by some of the students. So I just want to spend the next 5 minutes talking about outcomes. Just a word about methodology. I draw on these reflections posted by the students using the blog, which I then triangulated using my own experiences and observations as instructor of the course. So of course, the first and foremost, the most important is meeting the visions of the program. In the interest of time, I will not read this out. So we wanted to develop global citizens. So and we thought that what we saw in the reflections really, the students really articulated that learning. So you can't be a global citizen without being sensitive to different cultures. So culture to us, is not reduced to a simple set of factors, but really understanding who is saying what and why, and what kind of influences are shaping their responses. So connecting the head, the hand, and the heart. So mastering their competence with the communication, creativity, and character was also another outcome that we saw. But also importantly, empowering and growing the students. I think any presentation needs to criticize themselves. So this is kind of my own critique of myself. I think what we observe and experience in the course, we saw a lot of student performativity, which is usually associated with greater learning outcomes like student engagement, higher attendance, and so on. But this has also some negative implications. So being in the residence in the same halls and also peers in the same cohort of the University Scholars Program, there was a very high level of visibility for the students as individuals. So this is, I guess, the Big Brother effect. This also meant that there's a lot of expectation on each other, and there is a lot of competition as well. They wanted to outdo each other, and this is manifested in terms of how they perform different tasks. For instance, in the reflections that they wrote, although I did give a specific period of when the students are expected to post their reflections, I do notice that the reflections that are posted tend to get longer and longer. So in other words, the students were kind of waiting for others to post first, and then they try to outdo the last one. So this is about visibility, and this does mean that there's a high level of stress that the students experience, and in the next run of the course, specifically, we're looking at ways to kind of address that. And I guess this also, evoke certain implications about how students perform their rituals. To me as an instructor, it's about how authentic these reflections are, how authentic would be the performance of tasks, and so on. So another kind of set of challenge has to do with building bridges. I guess unlike NUS, the National University of Singapore, in NTU, the residential college is not an academic unit. So we work with academic colleges and programs, what's most fundamental is about alignment. Aligning desired outcomes and visions with house stakeholders in the school, in the college, and residential education. So Another kind of challenges is that as demands of courses change, there is also kind of a need to look at the availability and suitability of spaces in the halls. There is usually a high there's a high competition and demand for these spaces. So we have, for instance, the student council that run their activities. They need these spaces, but sometimes we need the same space to conduct our courses and activities. So I think I'm running out of time. I shall end here. Thank you.